Okay, so my name is Karen. I'll give you some background information on the Chains Beach Whaling Company, and then the audio will take over and describe the messier side of things that happen here. And I will also just introduce Cor over here. If you haven't met Cor already, we're very lucky to have him here as a volunteer. He was a cleanser here when the station was working. So if you do have questions afterwards, then definitely have a chat with Cor. Okay, so the Chains Beach Whaling Company, they were the ones that operated the site. Started whaling here in 1952 and caught their last whale in November of 1978. So 26 years of whaling, roughly around 15,000 whales caught. Yep. So they hunted two kinds of whales, firstly the humpbacks and also the sperm whales. So the humpbacks, they became protected in 1963. So after 1963, every other whaling station in Australia had to close. This one could remain open because of the location. So the two islands out there, you head out between the two islands about 3 hours south, you reach the continental shelf, and that's where they hunted the sperm whales. So sperm whales, they feed on giant squid that live in really deep water, and that's why we don't see the sperm whales close to shore. We do get to see the humpbacks and also the southern rights coming in close again now. Now, the hunting of the sperm whales, season was from March through to December. So every day during season, 3 ships would head out, and a spotter pilot would also fly out to help them find the whales. Once they'd located a pod of whales, they did have to be very careful about which ones they chose to harpoon, as there were size restrictions and very hefty fines for undersized whales. So the only person on board with the authority to fire the harpoon was the skipper, and if he took an undersized whale, he received a personal fine of about $2,000. So they did get to be pretty good at judging the sizes. Now the harpoon itself, that had an explosive head which would detonate inside the whale, so hopefully they killed it instantly. Once they'd killed the whale, they'd bring it up alongside the ship, pump some compressed air under the blubber to keep the whale afloat, put a flag and a radio beacon onto the whale, set it adrift and keep hunting through the day. At the end of a day's hunt, that spotter pilot would use the flag and the radio beacon to direct the skippers back to where the whales had drifted to. All the whales would be collected and brought in here for processing. So on arrival in here, they dropped the whales onto a buoy behind that flat rock out there. The ships would head back to the main town port, and a smaller towboat would bring the whales up here to the deck. So the winches here would haul the whales up out of the water tail first. The first thing that happened, the fisheries inspector would check the size. So if it was undersized, the company did forfeit the profits of the entire whale. Okay, now last thing I'll mention before I start the audio is the colour of the water. Okay, so we've got beautiful blue now, but back in the day, all around here red with blood. So blood in the water means sharks, and those sharks would be having a feast. So that did cost them quite a bit of money. So there used to be a jetty that went out from here, where the flensers would walk out on the jetty, shoot the sharks, cut them open, retrieve the blubber from back out of the sharks, and that blubber went into the cookers up there as well. Okay, you will hear through the audio that nothing went to waste. They used every part of the whale. Okay, now any questions before I start?
What do you guys do with the whales?
Okay, so the audio program is going to describe the next process of how they actually extracted the oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many did a boat typically bring in a day?
Okay, an average daily catch was between 3 to 5, sometimes much more, and sometimes none at all.
And they towed them in, they didn't drag them on board?
No, they towed them all. So that compressed air, make them a bit like big balloons, easy for towing as well. Yeah.
So they go daily, or they stay overnight to hunt the whale?
No, they would, each day they would return back to port. I mean, some days it was they'd leave about 4:30 in the morning, and some days they wouldn't get back until well after dark and well into the night, and they would only have a few hours changeover before heading out. But no, they came back to port caught each night. Yeah, and as you can see, if you go on the ship, you can see there's bunks, so that the crew that worked on rosters, they could get some sleep while they were heading back out. Okay. Alright, I'll start the audio for you. It's pretty loud, you'll hear it all around. It starts down here on the flensing deck. After a little while, it'll take you up to the top cutting up deck, and then finally it takes you down through that door into the lower factory down there. And you do get plenty of time to move around between areas. So we'll start in just a moment. Enjoy the rest of your day.
This is the Chains Beach Whaling Company's flensing deck. Flens is a Norwegian word. It means cutting blubber from a whale or skin from a seal. The whale chaser, Chains 4, has delivered a 17-metre sperm whale bull to the station, which now has to be flensed. The flencers are attaching ropes and a series of blocks to the dead whale's tail so that it can be winched up onto the deck. The steam-driven winch, which is at the top of the ramp to your left, hauls the massive carcass weighing some 50 tons up onto the flensing deck. Winch blocks on either side run the winch wire around to help the men position the whale on the wooden section. Now, the grisly, bloody process of removing the blubber from the carcass begins. Flensing a whale is usually done by two men using large, razor-sharp knives. They start by making a low, longitudinal cut on both sides of the whale. The flenser has cleats strapped to the bottom of his boots, which are spiked triangles. The spikes penetrate the blubber and allow him to climb up the whale's back without slipping. He then makes a cut all the way down the back that joins the two side cuts. Large steel hooks are now attached to the